the chances are what your deepest desire is and what you deeply, deeply desire for your life is not only possible, but with the right mindset and the right thought patterns and the right vibes about it, it's inevitable. It's going to happen. Like it's the law.
Hello, beautiful souls. Welcome back to another epic episode of High Vibin' It. It's your co-hosts here. Another solo episode for you guys, which are few and far between. So you're welcome. It's going to be a fun time. My name is Kelsey Aida.
And I'm Lindsay, hypnotherapist and lover of cheese.
I guess I'll give a random fact too.
Random. She just ate a muscadine. There's
just
a random fact.
ate a muscadine, which apparently is a type of grape, and it was very sweet, and I don't know how I feel about it. But other than eating interesting fruits these days, I'm also an author, and I host retreats and this podcast and all kinds of things. And it's so funny because I was like, Lindsay, we have to introduce ourselves and say what we do on the episode today, because I had this woman apply for my retreat. Shout out if you're listening, you will know who you are. And I was like, how did you find out about the retreat? And she was like, well, I always go to Five Below and I'm always getting my manifesting, like fun little manifesting things there, and leave with a bunch of books. And I bought your book, Letters to the Universe. And I was just like, yes, vibing with the book. And then I went on your website and I saw the retreat. And I was like, oh, so you didn't hear about it like through the podcast? And she was like, well, she didn't know that I hosted this podcast, even though she listens to it all the time. She was like, well, there's only 3 podcasts that I really
stop
love.
it.
One is spiritual shit. One is my spiritual BFF or something like that. I didn't know that one. And then the other one is High Vibin' It. And I was like, I'm the host of High Vibin' It, right?
That's literally our podcast.
And I was like, wow, we really need to start introducing ourselves better.
Okay, well then I think we should start over. So I'm Lindsay, hypnotherapist and intuitive coach, and I help you achieve your goals and rewire your mind for success.
Yes,
Kelsey, you go.
That's what I'm talking about. We used to do this in the beginning, but we lost track. But
we got rusty for sure.
We got rusty. But for anyone who is new or not new and thinks we're just these ambiguous co-hosts of High Vibin' It, we also do other stuff outside of the podcast. I'm a best-selling author, retreat host, international retreat host, which is fun, transformation facilitator, and really I just help people to manifest their highest timeline and love themselves deeply, deeply through the process. So yeah, we're your hosts.
We should have each other like introduce each other next time. I think it would go on too long though, because I'd be like, she has pretty hair,
30 minutes.
Her eyelashes are longer than anyone else's in the world. Anyway, we have a fun show today.
Like a little elf person in real life. It's amazing. She's
Kelsey,
fun size.
I take offense to that. I'm a
fairy. Oh, sorry. I thought you liked elves too, not just fairies.
I love Keebler elves because they make cookies. No, that's not true. I do love elves, but they're tall. If you're going for like the fantasy elf, they are tall.
Oh, fairies. Really? Wow, I really don't know my fantasy shit. I need to get on it.
Stick with me, kid.
I will. I have been for the last 3 years. But anyway, our topic of conversation today, I was like looking around my office thinking of like, what should we talk about? And in pure manifesting generator style, I was like looking for something to respond to. And I like looked over at my bookshelf and I saw like a bunch of the books that I've written. And I was like, well, maybe we should just take it back to the basics and talk about intention setting work and like some best practices, some do's and don'ts when it comes to scripting, visualization, when to set your intentions, how often to do them, some parameters, some, this seems to be helpful, this seems to be less helpful, and just have an open and honest conversation about that. So whether you're new to manifesting, or I would say also intermediate to manifesting, this episode I think you will love.
And this is beautiful because it's basically step one. Like if you ever want anything in your life, usually where you start is like, okay, what do I want? What is it that I actually want? And so intention setting is, the biggest, one of the biggest pieces of it. So it's a great place to start and really kind of dissect it a little bit.
Yeah. So here, let's get like personal with it instead of just like information. When you want something new, what's like the first thing you go to do? Like, are you getting out your dream jar? Because I know you love a good dream jar
I
moment.
do love a dream
Are
jar.
you like doing hypnosis on yourself? Like, what's your favorite go-to intention setting practice?
Okay, this is a perfect time to ask me this because I've never been so not I don't not know what I want, but it's been more difficult for me in this current phase of my life than it has been in the past. So I think your witchy vibes are really showing today because you somehow knew that I was gonna, and you put me on the spot. So now I have to really think about it. Okay. When I feel like I have a goal or there's a new level that I want to hit or something like that, I think probably one of the first things I do is write it down. You know, I love lists, I love checklists, I love we've talked about the checklist in the past on the show with the guests and dream jars and things like that, but I love writing it down. Um, you know, if you are a veteran of the show, then you'll remember that handwriting is a direct link to your subconscious mind. And that is my, I was going to say my playground. It's not that, it's not like that, but it is my, I guess, zone of expertise in the subconscious and what we take in and how we take it in. So writing it down is a very potent way to get it into the subconscious. And it's also why journaling is so effective. If your intention is to get it out, then handwriting is a very effective way to do that through journaling. But going back to intention setting, writing it down is probably for me one of the most powerful things because if you write it down, am I talking too fast? If you write it down and you don't feel the way you thought you'd feel about it, it gives you, looking at it on the paper sometimes can give you more perspective as to more about that thing. It can also give you more direction as to like, oh, when I wrote it down, it didn't really feel that good. Maybe I want to redirect it somewhere. So there is a certain power in writing it down because you can examine it on paper and actually see it from a different perspective versus just thinking about it and thinking about it all the time. Yeah, so I would say writing it down, and then we can talk about the feelings in a minute.
Yes, I'm glad that you said that because I'm the same. I go
Mhm.
straight to my journal. So nowadays, well, I have like two journals. I have my Letters to the Universe, which is my book journal that I created, which I do use my own book for anyone wondering. And also, I just have like a regular journal where I'll write like my gratitudes or I'll
Yeah.
just vent about stuff or I will manifest stuff in there too. Um, so yeah, I'm definitely
Mhm.
going for my journal first things first when I have an intention. And I'm happy that you said that because we're so similar in this way.
We
There's
are.
something about writing it down that immediately turns it from a thought into a thing. You
Yes.
immediately make it physical, you make it real, you document it for yourself and the universe and potentially others. And like you said, it's the hand subconscious coordination aspect too. There's something very supportive there as well. And did you know? I actually don't know the exact statistic, but I heard this once somewhere. So forgive my lack of detail on this. But very, 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 very few people write down their goals. And it's a shame
That is a shame.
because I have more data on this. Dr. Gail Matthews, a psychology professor at Dominican University in California, did a study on goal setting with 267 participants, and she found that you are 42% more likely to achieve your goals just by writing them down.
Yep. Yep.
42% more likely, which is almost 50% more
Yeah.
likely
That
that
almost
you're going
doubles
to
your
achieve your
chances.
goal. Yes, that is wild just from writing it down. So, knowing that, why wouldn't you write it down?
Why wouldn't you write it down? Why wouldn't you? I mean, it doesn't hurt anything. And maybe I would say the only reason somebody wouldn't is because they don't know what you just said. But now you do. So write it down. Now
Or
you
they
do. And
don't
it
know
takes
what
2 seconds.
they want.
Or
I've
they
ran
don't know
into a
what they
lot of
want.
people lately who don't know what they want. And I'm like, how can you not know? Because I always have such specific desires, but maybe we should talk on that.
We should, because this is where our fork in the road, we go different directions because based on human design, my manifesting style, we found out, is a non-specific and yours is specific. I don't like writing dates when I write my intentions because that's too much pressure and I don't like having a deadline. But there are some people that love to write dates on that stuff. And that goes back to the more specific type. That also, one of the pitfalls of being a non-specific is you don't always know what you want. You don't always know what it looks like, but you know what it feels like. And sometimes that's enough, but it can help to have a little bit of that picture filled out, if you can get those details.
Yeah, I like to advise people who are like, I don't know what I want, help me, to just go broader and focus on the feelings. Like
What's the
everybody
feeling?
knows how they want to feel in
Yes.
life. What are some of the core essences that you want to extract from your life? What are some of the core themes you want to experience? Is it
Yeah.
happiness? Is it optimal health? Is it companionship? Is it whatever it is? Is it purpose? Is it feeling fulfilled? Is it being excited a lot? Is it creating? Is it being creative?
Let's
We all have these like innate desires in our heart that if you just ask the question, they
let's
will
ask the question.
usually reveal themselves to you.
Let's ask the question to the listeners. So if there's anybody listening that's like me right now, who just really is kind of vague in their desires and intentions and doesn't always know what specifically they want. So just play this little game and say, if whatever I want brought a feeling, what would the feeling be? What is the feeling that I'm trying to achieve in my life? And this is like an overall theme for me, at least. This would be like the overall theme for my life. What do I want to feel consistently? What is the feeling? And for me, it's probably, you have to play too, Kels, by the way. For me, it's probably security, safety, freedom. That feeling of just, here's the feeling. This is the best way I can describe it. When you get home from work, if you work outside the home and you like take your shoes off, maybe your pants and your bra because they're just too tight, and you lay down on the couch and you just breathe out like the deepest sigh, that's the feeling. That's the one. So, whatever that's called, relief, I guess, relief, ease, comfort, freedom, and adventure.
I love that.
I need adventure.
Yeah. I like when you don't know exactly what you want or you think you don't know what you want. The question of how do I want to feel is super beneficial, which I will give my answer in a second. But also to add to it, a question of who do I want to be?
Yeah.
Like I came into this life for a purpose, to be someone, to do something, to have some sort of experience. What
Mm-hmm.
what do I think that is? What would I want that to be? What do I speculate my soul was like, hey, we're gonna go down and do that thing.
Yes. What does the person who has the feelings that I want, like, how does she act? What does she do? How does she make decisions? What is her attitude, kind of thing?
Or his. Or theirs.
Or theirs or his. I'm sorry. Yes, of course.
No, you're good.
I always speak it through a feminine perspective because that's just how I live.
Yes. And we know there's lots of ladies listening on the other end.
Yes.
So we love that. But yeah, how do I want to feel? I want to feel abundant, free, creative, fulfilled, contributing, helpful, expansive. I want to feel like my life is super optimized, like every area is like at the highest, healthiest level possible for me in that moment. And I want to be love, and I want to be creative, and I want to be beautiful, and I want to be passionate, and I want to be having lots of fun, and I want to be
That's a
in
lot.
luxury, and I want to be just the
Guys, she's going to go all
all-knowing
day.
wizard lady.
Wizard, enchantress, sorceress.
Yeah.
A good sorceress.
Yes.
Yes, and we can all like attach ourselves to a couple feelings, core feelings that we want. And so it's, don't put too much pressure on yourself to figure out the specifics. I have done that in the past. I did that recently. I was like, Lindsay, get it together. What is it? What do you want? It can be anything. You can have anything. What do you want? And it's just very difficult sometimes. So I would say in those moments, don't try to be specific. As Kelsey said, scale it out a little bit, zoom out. What do you want to feel? And that's the feeling that you can attach to. What do you want to feel? There is your anchor. And from there, usually the picture will unfold for you because we're all just chasing feelings anyway. That's all it is. You want a new car? What's the feeling that comes with a new car? Freedom. Guess what? You're chasing freedom. And that can come in many forms. You just attach it materialistically to a red sports car. We're always chasing feelings. So if that's all you can grab onto, wonderful. Do you think there are any people that can't? You think there's anyone listening that's like, well, I can't even do that?
Probably. But I would say if you're one of those people and you're lacking the mental clarity or like the optimism, you're probably just feeling bad. So I would say first things first, just work on feeling better in general. And then once you
Yeah.
feel better and you raise your vibration, you'll have a lot more clarity and more direction and more focus.
A really good way to feel a little bit better, or at least a little less crappy, emotional guidance scale. We've had I think we did a whole episode on the
Yeah, we
emotional
just did
guidance
one
scale
recently. I don't know
so
what
you can
number
go
it
back and
was.
check that out. If you can't find it, just Google High Vibe in it, emotional guidance scale. And I have some things in my membership about the emotional guidance scale, but it's basically just a emotional ladder that you can climb up or climb down depending on where you are. But there's always how do I say this? There's always one step up that you can take. So even if you feel the most hopeless, the most depressed, the most unclear of what you want, the most hate, whatever it is, there's always one step up that you can take. And then you feel a little less crappy. You don't feel good necessarily, but that's okay because you will. You just feel a little less crappy for the day and your work is done. So if you need more guidance on that, go to the emotional guidance scale episode.
Yeah, and listen to the human design episodes we did with Christine Hayes, I believe it was, and also we talked about the specific, non-specific manifesting piece. I believe more recently in a more recent human design episode too. So if you're like, oh, I didn't know I could be a specific or non-specific manifester, that's a human design situation.
It is. We're so
and
deep into the podcast now that everything we talk about has a companion episode.
Yes. You can always go back and like learn more and go deeper. And pretty soon people will be able to binge like a whole topic because there will be so many episodes
like a
on
playlist.
that. Yes, exactly. Maybe we can like organize it someday where it's like all the self-love episodes, all the manifesting
We need a
episodes,
VA.
all the
Any volunteers message us.
Yes. Send us a message. Send us help.
If you know what you're doing. Okay. So we wrote it down. We got the feeling that we want. What else can we do?
Personally, I'm super into visualization meditations, especially guided ones where someone's telling me what to feel and imagine and see.
Which you know what you're doing then, right? If it's a guided one, you know what it is. We've talked about this.
Yeah.
It's hypnosis.
I was waiting for you to give the
You were waiting
line.
for drum roll. Yeah. If it's any sort of thing where they are guiding you and inviting you to see a forest or to, have a yellow glow spreading throughout your body, yeah, you're going into hypnosis. Sorry about it. But meditation, actually not sorry, because it's amazing. Meditation is more of a clearing, as the classic definition of meditation is a clearing of the energy, a cleansing, a clearing of the mind so that you can receive that guidance and that harmony that you want. And hypnosis has a targeted objective, laser focus in mind. So
okay, so with that differentiation and that distinction, I would say I meditate for about 10 minutes and then I go into hypnosis for about 10 minutes. So clear the mind, slow the nervous system, prep the bod, and then go into the actual visualization and calling in what I want or imagining what it looks like or whatever that may be.
Can I do a little teeny tiny non sequitur real quick? I think it might actually weave very well into the episode, but a couple nights ago, my kids and I just watched the first episode of Limitless with Chris Hemsworth on Disney Plus. Have you heard of this? So this amazing Thor, right? He does like 5 or 6 episodes on different types of ways for longevity and living longer, because his thing is like, I want to be able to play with my grandkids and all this stuff. So he goes through these like extreme things to that kind of go around these topics. So episode 1 is the only one I've seen yet, and it's the stress proof episode. And he has to basically run into burning buildings and like walk, like scale off of a crane off of this like 900-foot building to confront his panic, his fight or flight, and kind of learn how to tame it in the moment. And it's actually pretty incredible. He learns visualization, meditation. He learns box breathing, which is like, obviously inhale 4 seconds, hold it 4 seconds, exhale 4 seconds. And it's all these different types of techniques, I guess, but they're like so extreme that no average person is ever going to be like, let me go up this 900-foot building because it's in Australia, whatever. So it's just a very, and there's all kinds of episodes. And I think the next one is about, I forget, but it's like, I don't know. Anyway, the stress one is very good. I recommend everybody watching it because it does go into some basic things, but it also actually teaches you why we go into fight or flight, why our bodies have, why our nervous systems don't know how to cope with the everyday stressors of life, because, it's constant. We live in a time where it's a constant, the panic button's being pushed all the time. So it's a very great episode for anybody who has anxiety. By the way, everything he said about waking up in the middle of the night and like how he can't stop obsessing about these random things that pop in his head, I'm like, how does he know what I do?
We're
and
all
I
the
think
same.
It's very nice to know that even, I know this is an obvious thing for some people, but it's nice to know that even the rich and powerful and famous, you're never too, you can't buy your way out of anxiety unless you really learn to deal with it. So it's very interesting. I recommend it, highly recommend it. It was good for my kids too, because I was like, see guys, I told you breathing is helpful. See guys, I told you positive talk is good. Because I'm always, hammering that home with them. But anyway, so you said nervous system and it made me think of it. Go ahead.
Yeah, nervous system soothing is good.
You do meditation and then you do visualization.
I would say even if I'm going to journal, like if I'm going to do a visualization via journaling or like a scripting session, I probably will meditate for 10 minutes before. And I like to set the tone with like whatever vibe I'm going for. So let's say if I'm doing like a money manifestation session, I'll probably listen to like 888 hertz frequency and like involve numerology and frequency in that way too. So I'll be listening to the music, meditating, writing it down. And then I think I also shared, I don't know if this was on the Patreon or if this was in the actual episode that we recorded recently, but I love to just get lost in Teal Swan's frequency painting, or in her card deck that I use a lot with my clients. It's called the blind spot cards. Yeah, the blind spot cards. I like to use visual symbolism, or even my sister, she would at some point she created a YouTube channel with like mind movies, so you can like visually program whatever it is that you are looking to create. So that's another way, but I like to just get it from all the senses, orally, visually, in my mind, in my body. And I feel like that just like compounds the manifestation effect versus just using one modality or
I would like to offer a little bit of knowledge behind visualization if I could. A little bit of science. So there are these people, what's it called? I'm gonna look it up. What's the word where you can't visualize? You can't see. Can't visualize. It's like anaphasia or something. Hold on. And aphantasia. Okay, aphantasia is the perceived inability. I say perceived, but it's because it's the perceived inability to be able to see pictures in your mind. And some people cannot see pictures. And it's interesting. If you're listening to this podcast and you can see pictures, ask someone in your life if they can see an orange or see a lemon. And you might be surprised. Some of them will be like, no, I know what a lemon is. I know what an orange is, but I can't see it. So that's aphantasia. They just don't.
So how many people have this?
Okay,
it's like a rare thing.
This
sounds very rare.
I'm gonna say it's bigger than I thought it was, because my husband even was like, I don't know. Apparently it's 2 to 5% of the population have a lifelong inability to generate any images within their mind's eye. Now, again, you don't know, because it's almost like you can never know what somebody's actually experiencing in their brain. So if you ask me, like, can you see an orange in your mind? I might be seeing an orange in my mind the way I think everybody does. So I'm going to answer you in that way. But if I'm seeing like a shadow of an orange or a silhouette of an orange, I might assume that I can't see anything, and therefore, you know what I mean? So you can't ever know how, maybe you visualize different than me and we'll never know. But what's interesting is, even if you're somebody who feels like they can't visualize or they can't see pictures, if you're one of those 2 to 5% people, you can still visualize, because visualizing in the mind isn't just seeing a picture of it. It's smelling the orange, right? It's peeling, hearing the peel. Can you hear it being peeled or sliced? Can you feel the weight of it in your hands? Can you, or the bumps on the peel? Can you taste it? Can you smell it? Things like that. So, there are, we have six senses. Well, five, but we have six. Most people, should just become comfortable with the fact that you have a sixth sense, but we have at least five tangible senses that we can use to visualize. So if you can't see anything, imagine, and emotionally, imagine feeling it emotionally. Imagine seeing colors or shapes, or maybe just energy. There are many, many ways you can still experience the fulfillment of your goal in your mind. It just might not be the way that you think everybody else is doing it. That's okay anyway, because we're all about being unique and like trying it your own way.
Everyone's going to have their own manifestation processes and favorite ways to do it, and ways that light them up the most. So of course, there's never a one size fits all.
The mind, we were taught in school, within my certification program, we were taught that the mind communicates in symbols and images. Again, if you have aphantasia, it just might be that you're not seeing them in the same way that other people are. But I do believe that everybody has the ability to at least visualize with one of their senses. So, if I sometimes will get clients in my practice that are like, I can't see any images. Is this just not going to work for me? And they're very happy when I tell them that, like, I've never, ever had anybody not experience something, whether it's, a different sense or what have you, because that's kind of my job, to help you be able to do that. So even if you're somebody that can't, just, try a different sense. It might work very well.
Well, I think it's safe to say that we all have an imagination that can be used in different ways. Even if you're not a super visual person, there are so many other ways to access your imagination. And that's what we're talking about when we talk about visualization, or even scripting, which is just a way of writing down basically your visualization, or any other intention setting practice. It's really, really important to turn your imagination all the way up.
Indeed.
So what now? Let's talk about like when, how long, how often, and not like rules of thumb, because like we said, there's no size fits all. And also I already wrote about this in both of my newest books, but maybe we can talk about like our favorite time of day, and like how often we like to do these practices.
Okay. So I'm always going to say within the first 30 minutes of waking up, or before 30 minutes before you fall asleep, because your subconscious mind, which is where all and any goal you've ever had has been achieved, is because your subconscious put a stamp of approval on it. So if you want to get your subconscious on the same team as your goal, do it within those times. Your subconscious is the most receptive and the most likely to accept anything that it's going to get from you, which is also why getting up and scrolling Instagram or Facebook, or seeing horrible news on the internet first thing in the morning, is probably not the best thing for you to do. For, if you ever needed a reason why not to, there's a good one. But yeah, your subconscious is very, very receptive within those times. So those are the best times to do it: before bed, right after you wake up. Your body, your mind is listening intently to whatever you want to tell it, and allow it to believe.
Okay, I have a question about that, because I've been doing like hypnosis when I'm falling asleep, and a lot of the times I will fall asleep before it's over. So if I'm already asleep, am I still getting programmed or nah?
This is a very good question. Okay, so
because they always say if you fall asleep, it's no big deal, it'll still work. But I'm like, will it still work?
It's not. Well, they're right. It's not a big deal. However, as far as I'm aware, sitting here today, there is no conclusive study or evidence that says you cannot learn while you sleep, nor have I seen any studies or science that say you can learn while you sleep. So it's inconclusive. The jury is still out, and I haven't seen any studies that say either way. I will say that if you fall asleep during a hypnosis audio, a lot of my clients have this question, you're going to be fine. You're not going to be, I know this wasn't your question, but it is a big one. You're not going to be stuck in hypnosis, because you're just not. You're going to wake up and come out of it. You're not going to be like, if you do feel extra tired in the morning, I always tell people just to count themselves back out and say their name out loud. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, eyes open, wide awake, very easily done. It's very, I would say impossible to get stuck in hypnosis. If you have chronic anxiety, then you are stuck in hypnosis because you're stuck in a state, an altered state, which is very easily remedied. But no, I don't know. I'd say keep doing it. There are hypnosis that allow you to fall asleep and it can't hurt you. It can't hurt to do it. So I would say keep doing it, but stay awake as long as you can, maybe.
Yeah.
before
It's
the
the in between space where the money's at. I get that. But I'm
yes.
curious about like programming yourself while you're sleeping by which point, like when you fall asleep, does that mean the hypnosis you're not taking it in anymore? Like, I guess we don't
Because
really know.
there is a distinction between subconscious activation and unconscious sleep. There
Right.
is a distinction. So again, nobody I've seen really knows if the mind can still take in information once you are unconscious asleep. If anybody knows of any studies, please do let me know because it would give me a lot better answer to tell my clients. But as of now, I just say, just do it. Who cares? As long as it's a good one and it makes you feel good. When I give my clients sleep hypnosis, I will do the hypnosis and then I'll add 45 minutes of like ambient, theta waves and things like that so that they can drift away after the hypnosis is done. So maybe I would just say, stay awake as long as you can and then drift your little self off to sleep.
Drift on, drift on.
I wish I had a better answer, but I don't know.
Yeah, that just popped into my head. So yeah, curious about that.
Yeah.
But for me, I guess I love right when I wake up in the morning
Mm-hmm.
or like as a part of my morning routine to get into my journal. Usually like meditating right upon waking up, I'll fall back asleep. So I need at least like 20 minutes to like wake up first before I meditate. But I also love bedtime. But I really have been
I
loving
love bedtime.
I love
Who
bedtime
doesn't?
for manifesting and intention setting work. But I've also really been loving like the later afternoon. If I'm like done working or in between client sessions and it starts to get like really pretty outside, I'll just go on my back porch and bring my journal with me or bring my letters to the universe with me or not. Just bring nothing and just
Enjoy the moment.
Enjoy the moment, envision my future, feel super excited for my best life, which I'm already living my best life, but there's always a best next level. So getting into the feels of the next level.
I'd say the only wrong time to do these practices is if you're super low vibe or you're like in a really shitty mood or you're just feeling terrible. Maybe hold off.
Yeah, I actually wrote about that in my pocket guide to manifestation and I think letters to the universe too, because when you're feeling super, super shitty is not like the best time to like do your scripting and affirmations and journaling and visualization. That's the time to get really clear about what you don't like about your life, what's not working, AKA what would be working, what you do want. And when you're in those really low moments of contrast, like Abraham Hicks always says, you're shooting off those rockets of desire. So I write about those as step 0 of the manifestation process. It's not that you're not manifesting. You are. That's where the desire is born. It's born from the contrast. So this is an important part of the manifestation process, but not the best time to do your intention setting work. So I always tell people, do your intention setting work when you're feeling like the most excited, the most optimistic, the most open to possibility. Like, let's say you just came back from the gym and you're like, yeah, feeling good, feeling empowered. You're like all hyped up on endorphins. Great time to dive into your journal. Or if you woke up on the right side of the bed, perfect time to do that. Or even if you're just feeling tired from a long day, you're so tired that you're just open to possibility. That's a good time to do it too.
You just have to be open. There was a saying when I was studying hypnosis that said, and this was going for self-hypnosis, but I think it's in the same vein as like any kind of mindset practice that you're going to do. If you do it, let's say you try to self-hypnotize when you're depressed. It's kind of like alcohol. If you drink when you're already depressed, guess what's going to happen? You're going to get, it's like an exaggerator.
But if you are,
yes, an amplifier. But if you're very excited and you try to do self-hypnosis, it's going to amplify that too. It's going to make you more excited, more open, more anticipatory, more just high vibe in general. And it's the same with any kind of mindset work. So that's a good rule of thumb. However you're feeling in that moment, whatever mindset practice you're going to do is only going to magnify what you're already feeling. So that's why we say that.
I like it. So we went over the when, the how. Well, we didn't
The
really go
what?
over how long or how often. I try to
Right.
do at least 20 minutes if I'm going to dive into something.
Yeah, 20
Because,
minutes is good. It's a nice bite size. I also love Abraham Hicks' 17 seconds of pure thought.
right.
That is something anyone can do. Have you heard of this? You must have.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which is basically you just focus intently for 17 seconds on whatever it is that you want. And that's potent thought for 17 seconds is enough to give you crazy momentum toward your goal, at
Yeah.
least
And
for the
it's
day.
compounding. So if
And
you
it's
go 17
compounding.
seconds and another 17 seconds and another 17 seconds, for some reason, intuitively, I feel very strongly that 11 minutes is like a solid, solid tipping point where you can become entrained into a certain frequency. So I like to go for at least like 12 to 20.
Yeah.
But yeah, at least 17 seconds is going to
17,
at least get you some energetic momentum going in the right direction. But if you do
yeah.
17 seconds a day of positive focus and the rest of the day you're like complaining about your life, then no, it's not
I
going to do
don't care.
anything.
Yeah, exactly. And I don't, and this is why I like 17 seconds because normally I'm like, I get it. Your parents, you have kids, you have a busy life. If you don't look, I am the biggest like time waster. If I'm sitting on my couch, good luck. I'm done for the day. If you don't have 17 seconds, like what? Nobody doesn't have 17 seconds, even me. And I'm the biggest person that's going to be like, no, I don't have time for that. I don't have time, guys. I have 17 seconds. Everybody does. It's the easiest thing. And I think that the path of least resistance, for whatever lifestyle you have, can sometimes be the best way to go, at least for the moment. Like, let's say every day for a week, you do 20 minutes of deep meditation and visualization and journaling. But then on that, eighth day, you can't do anything. Guess what? You can do 17 seconds. So that's why I like this one because everyone can do it no matter who you are, no matter where you live, no matter what your lifestyle is like. You can just take 17 seconds and you're good. You've done at least some of the work. You've done a big chunk of the manifestation right there.
You've created an energetic imprint in the
Indeed.
infinite field of possibilities.
Yes.
I like it.
17
So I was
seconds,
thinking,
guys.
to wrap up this episode, before we wrap it up, I wanted to share a couple of do's and don'ts, basic do's and don'ts of intention setting work / manifestation work.
This is kind of like our episode last week, the bad advice piece.
Yes, kind of. I'll share 2 do's and 2 don'ts. I have a list here in one of my books that I already wrote, Letters to the Universe. In the beginning, there is a little chapter on manifesting before you go into the journaling. But this part, I'm not going to read them all because there's too many, but I'll just dive into a couple. And Linz, I want your take on these.
Okay.
So, number 1 being do keep it fun because manifestation works best when it's fun and playful. Thoughts?
Well, I agree. Of course. I agree. And everything's better when it's fun, including work. I've been trying lately, especially in this season, to just do the fun things. And it's just something I have to do for myself. And manifestation must be fun. Or what are you manifesting?
Right. You're just doing it to make yourself suffer for what?
if you
As a means
manifest
to an end.
during bad feelings, you're probably just going to manifest more bad feelings. So if you don't feel fun that day, do something that does feel fun until you feel fun enough to do some manifestation.
I like it. And then another one, this is manifesting in general. Do stay flexible. It's your job to let the universe know what you want, and it's the universe's job to figure out the how and the when. So this means be open to possibility. Yeah. This means don't manifest a specific person. Like I always say, this means, if you're going for a promotion or something like that, you can visualize it or intend for it to be this or something better, because maybe there's a whole different career path for you that's way better. You'll make way more money, be way more fulfilled and energized, and you just don't know. Universe knows
here's the thing. Most of the time, it will be better. You can pretty much put your money on the fact that whatever the universe has in store for you is way better than what you're thinking in your noggin, because we're humans and we are very limited. Even our most wildest dream is still limited by human parameters of possibility. The universe always has something better up her sleeve. I say her, for you, because we're just limited in these little bodies. You know, we can be expansive, we can be high vibe, but we're still very limited. So always assume that it's going to be better if you give a little bit of the power to the universe, and you will never be disappointed.
Yes. Co-creating, folks. Co-creating.
Indeed.
Okay,
I've said indeed like 75 times on this. Who is channeling through my body right now? Like, what aristocrat is speaking through me? The other day I said indubitably. What's going on? Indubitably. I feel like I'm on the Titanic. Like, what's happening here? Anyway.
Maybe you were.
Maybe. One of my past lives is leaking through these past few days.
Yes, I think. Well, you do love history. I'm sure you had plenty of past lives.
Indeed, I do.
Fancy
Kelsey.
words. So
I'm sorry, guys. I don't know why. I don't know why it's happening.
Okay, so moving on to 2 of the don'ts. Okay, this is a biggie. I think we've talked about this before, but I can't remember. Don't judge your desires. When you criticize your desire, it's usually an attempt to unwan't it because a part of you just doesn't know how you can ever get it. But you can't unwan't what you want. It's literally impossible.
So give me an example of judging desire.
Like if you're like, oh, like for me, I'm like, oh, I want to sell millions of books. And then I'm like, that's not possible. Statistically, bad chances. Like I shouldn't want such big dreams. Oh, I'm such a big dreamer. So annoying. I'm such a burden to myself for having such big dreams that are so unattainable. And then you just spiral and you like try and judge yourself out of wanting what you want. Or like if you want a certain type of relationship and you're like, oh, I'm so shallow for wanting that. Or, you know, I shouldn't want that because so many other people have less. Or any this can show up in so many different ways.
I get it now. I actually have and I kind of thought that's what you meant, but I actually have done that versions of that. I don't remember ever judging myself for wanting it, but I definitely am like, oh, that's very unlikely. What the heck am I thinking? Like, what's going on? And it's so still at 37 years old. It is so automatic in my brain to be like 1 second so excited and the next second like, bleh, like your balloon's been deflated because you're like, meh. But I look at all the other times in my life where I've had that feeling and the deflation and I actually stood up to it. Like when I became a hypnotherapist, remember I talk about this a lot. I had the voice that was like, no, do something safe. What are you thinking? You have a child now. You're about to get married. You cannot be doing this risky thing and getting a student loan and all this thing. And then immediately I heard another voice that was like, but why? Like, but why can't I? Because it sounds really fun. And anyone who's ever done it has had to do the same thing I'm doing now. So maybe I should just start. And I've overcome those moments. So if that's you too, maybe you could think of other times in your life where you were able to overcome the judgment and get back into the excitement and actually do the thing, because nothing's really impossible. I mean, not really, right?
I mean, I guess very few things are not possible.
You can't sprout wings and fly out the window, but
we are limited to like the laws of this time space reality on this planet as human beings. But given all of that, anything is possible.
Anything is possible. What you're thinking, what your deepest desire, because I don't think anyone's deepest desire is to like fly out the window with wings. Maybe it is, but the chances are what your deepest desire is and what you deeply, deeply desire for your life is not only possible, but with the right mindset and the right thought patterns and the right vibes about it, it's inevitable. It's going to happen. Like it's the law.
Hey there, we hope you're enjoying this episode so far, but if you want to listen to the whole thing, we're going to invite you over to our podcast. Either search for High Vibing It on iTunes, Spotify, wherever you guys listen to podcasts, or even better, if you want to watch the extended video version of this episode that's even longer than the actual podcast itself, head over to our Patreon at patreon.com/highvibe. Lindsay, tell them what's awesome about the Patreon.
Patreon is where we have all of our extended episodes. As Kelsey said, we have it on video, so you can actually see the things that we're talking about. Sometimes we have visual aids, and it's nice to know what we're talking about. We also have hangouts that we do sometimes that are exclusive to Patreon people. And you can get started with all of this and bonus content and everything that we have only for the Patreon people for as little as $3. I think it's $3.33 a month. And that's it. And you guys can get all the benefits and all access to everything that we put in there. Really cool.
It's really cool, really fun, super easy to join. And you guys don't even have to do that to finish this episode. If you're like, screw it, I don't want to pay any money, I just want to hear the rest of this episode, go to our podcast, High Vibe in It, search for it wherever you listen. It's totally free. Either way, enjoy the rest of the show wherever you choose to enjoy it. And we will see you guys next week because we do a new one every week. Adios.
Bye.